Jonas Keller stood in the low-lit cargo hold of the freighter Aurora's Grace, wiping grease from his hands onto a rag. He was fixing a broken power conduit when a soft scraping noise echoed behind him. He froze and stared into the dark corridor. A slender figure slipped into view. She moved with careful steps, her pale blue skin almost glowing in the dim light. Jonas had heard rumors of stowaways, desperate refugees from remote worlds, but he had never seen one in person. The girl paused at the mouth of the hold, clutching a small bundle of metal scraps against her chest. She wore tattered overalls that hung loose on her thin frame. Her large eyes, the color of frozen lakes, scanned the crates around her. Fear and curiosity flickered across her face. Jonas set down his tools and leaned against a nearby crate, trying to look calm. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said in a gentle voice. His tone was soft, unlike the rough language most traders used. She took a small step back, pressing her back against the corridor wall. Her breathing quickened. Jonas noticed that she wore no collar or identification tag. She was free, or running from something. He held up his palms. "Easy," he said. "You can keep those scraps. I need them more than my boss does." He gestured toward the bundle she held. "What's your name?" Her eyes widened at the question. She did not reply. Jonas realized she might not trust humans at all. On many worlds, strangers meant danger. He took a slow breath. "My name is Jonas," he said, moving a little closer but staying in the open. "I'm a repairman here. If you want shelter, I can help. This hold is safe." For a moment, she seemed to weigh his words. Then her shoulders slumped, and she let the scrap bundle drop. The pieces clinked softly on the metal floor. Jonas gently picked up a small gear and handed it back. "Thank you," she whispered in a voice so quiet it might have been a memory. She did not take it. He knelt to her level. "I don't know why you're here," he said, "but I can fix things. I can keep you safe." Her lips parted, then closed. She looked away, toward the sealed hatch that led to the ship's engine room. Jonas sensed her heart pounding behind her ribs. He stood and held out his hand. "Come on," he said. "I'll show you the mess hall. You can eat something warm." Her bright eyes met his, full of fear and hope. She stepped forward slowly, placing her hand in his. Jonas led her past the stacked crates and buzzing machinery, toward a new beginning neither of them expected. Below the hum of the engines, in the isolated hold of a trading ship, two very different lives had just found each other, and neither one would ever be the same. Jonas led the girl, Lyra, through narrow hallways toward the mess hall. The lights hummed overhead, and the scent of warm stew filled the air. Lyra kept her eyes down, clutching her hands to her chest. Jonas opened the door to the mess hall and held it for her. Inside, a few crew members ate their meals in silence. They stared at Lyra, curious and wary. Jonas guided her to an empty table by a window. He motioned for her to sit. Lyra hesitated but then lowered herself onto the bench. Jonas placed a bowl of hot broth in front of her. Steam rose in soft clouds. Lyra's lips trembled as she touched the spoon. She brought it to her mouth and tasted the broth. Her eyes widened at the warmth and flavor. She took another spoonful, and then another. Jonas watched her, feeling a strange mix of hope and fear. He waited until she swallowed before speaking. He leaned forward and said in a calm voice, "You have beautiful eyes." Lyra froze. The spoon clattered against the bowl. Her long lashes fluttered, and she stared at Jonas with wide pupils. The warmth of the mess hall faded away. For a moment, the only sound was the hum of the lights. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. She stiffened, her body rigid like stone. Her eyes, the color of ice, seemed to glow with surprise. She blinked once, twice, then turned away. Her fingers gripped the edge of the table so tightly that her nails dug into the metal. Jonas felt a cold weight in his chest. He leaned back, uncertain. He had meant the words as kindness. He did not expect fear. He glanced around. The crew ceased their quiet talk and watched Lyra's reaction. Jonas stood, ready to defend her if needed. Lyra's chest rose and fell quickly. Her ears, small and elf-like, pressed flat against her head. She was silent, but her whole body trembled. Jonas spoke again, softer this time. "I did not mean to scare you. I only saw your eyes and spoke the truth." Lyra's head shook slowly. She slid off the bench and backed away, pressing her back to the wall. Her eyes never left Jonas. Her skin took on a faint blue glow, and for a moment, Jonas thought he saw tears in her eyes. He took a careful step forward. "Please," he said, "I only want to help." But Lyra's response was a whimper, and she turned on her heel. Without another word, she bolted from the mess hall and vanished into the corridors. Jonas hurried after her, calling her name. He chased through metal doors and empty hallways. His heart pounded like a drum. He feared he had lost her trust forever with one careless phrase. As the lights flickered in the narrow passage, Jonas realized that words held power on her world more than his. He pressed on, determined to set things right, even if it meant facing his own mistakes. Lyra's feet pounded against the metal floor as she sprinted down the dim corridor. Her heart raced like an engine on overload. Every breath burned her lungs. She dared not look back, but the memory of Jonas's gentle words chased her like a ghost. The narrow hallway twisted and turned, lined with access panels and warning lights. Lyra passed a stack of crates, then darted through a sliding hatch that led to a maintenance shaft. Sparks flickered above her head from loose conduit wires. She pressed herself against the cold wall, panting. Jonas burst into the corridor moments later, calling her name. "Lyra, wait." His voice echoed off the metal doors. He rounded a corner and nearly collided with a service droid humming on patrol. He ducked behind a support beam, scanning for Lyra. From his hiding place, Jonas spotted her slender form climbing a ladder into the shaft. He raced forward and grabbed the bottom rung. His boots slipped on the smooth metal, but he hauled himself up, determined not to lose her. Lyra's small hands trembled on the ladder rungs. She climbed higher, but the shaft narrowed. Her overalls caught on a sharp bolt, snagging her arm. She yanked free and stumbled into a service tunnel just as Jonas followed her through the opening. A patrol droid rounded the end of the tunnel, its single red eye scanning. It beeped sharply and raised an energy baton. Lyra froze, fear flooding her pale blue skin. The droid advanced, its heavy steps clanking on the floor. Jonas acted without thinking. He grabbed a loose tool, a crescent wrench, and hurled it past the droid's head. The tool skidded across the floor, drawing the droid's attention. With a wire, it pivoted toward the distraction and beeped in mechanical curiosity. Seizing the moment, Jonas reached for Lyra's hand. She snatched it, her fingers cold and trembling. He pulled her into a side corridor and pressed her against the wall. The droid spun back, but Jonas held up his free hand in a calm gesture. "Stand down," he said in the universal trade tongue. His voice was steady, but his heart thundered in his chest. The droid scanned the two humans and Lyra's bare neck. No tag, no rank. It beaked again, then lowered its baton. Lyra exhaled in a long sigh, her body relaxing just enough. Jonas guided her deeper into the service tunnel where the lights glowed faintly. He kept his arm around her shoulder, offering silent comfort. She leaned into him, still shaking. The pair emerged into a storage bay filled with sealed crates. Lyra slipped out of Jonas's embrace and pressed her forehead against the cool metal of a cargo container. Jonas knelt beside her, placing a gentle hand on her back. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I never meant to frighten you." Lyra's breath hitched, but she did not speak. Around them, the ship's engines thrummed, a steady reminder that they were still miles from safety. Jonas rose and looked down the long rows of cargo. He offered his hand again. "Come," he said softly. "I will keep you safe." Lyra met his gaze, uncertainty and trust shining in her wide eyes. Slowly, she took his hand, and together they moved on, away from fear and toward a fragile bond. Jonas guided Lyra through a hidden service door into a small maintenance room. The harsh lights in the corridors gave way to a softer glow here. Behind stacks of spare panels, he found 2 old seats bolted to the floor. He motioned to one seat and sat down. Lyra remained standing, her back against the wall. She wrapped her arms around herself, as though trying to hold in her fear. Jonas watched her quietly, giving her space. After a long moment, Lyra spoke in a trembling voice. "Why did you say that about my eyes?" Her words were careful, as though she feared the sound of her own voice. Jonas took a breath. "I saw you in danger. When I looked at you, I felt something in your eyes. Beauty, strength. I wanted you to know I saw you as a person, not an object." Lyra's shoulders shook. She closed her eyes. "On my world, words like that carry power. We use praise in ceremonies. We whisper praises into a device that binds our memories. It can change someone's mind." She opened her eyes again. "To hear a stranger praise me, it is both gift and curse." Jonas nodded slowly, realizing how his simple kindness had meant so much, and so little, in her culture. "I am sorry," he said. "I did not know. I only meant to help." Lyra sat down beside him, but she kept her back to the wall. Her skin glowed faintly under the soft light. "It is not your fault. You speak only truth and kindness. I have not felt kindness like that in many cycles." She pressed a hand to her chest. "I have run from praise my whole life. It reminds me of fear." Jonas reached out and laid his hand gently on hers. "I understand. You can speak or not speak. I will not force you." Lyra looked at his hand, then into his eyes. For the first time since they met, she smiled, a small, honest curve of her lips. Her voice was soft, but clear. "Thank you, Jonas." He smiled back. "You are welcome." She drew in a slow breath and set her hand on the seat beside her. "I learned something from you today. That words can build trust, not just control." She paused, as though tasting the idea on her tongue. "Maybe praise can heal." Jonas felt warmth spread through him. He had never thought of a compliment as medicine. "I think it can," he said. Lyra studied his face. "You have gentle eyes," she said quietly. "They do not judge." Jonas blinked. He had never been complimented like that before. His cheeks warmed. "Thank you, Lyra." They sat together in silence, each surprised by the other's words. Around them, the ship's engines whispered a steady rhythm. For the first time, Lyra felt safe enough to let her guard down. When she finally stood, she brushed a hand over her overalls. "I can trust you," she said, "even with my secret." Jonas rose too and offered his arm. "Then let me guide you back to your quarters. You deserve rest." Lyra placed her hand on his arm. Together, they left the maintenance room, stepping into a new moment of understanding, one built on simple kindness, honesty, and the gentle power of words. Jonas led Lyra into a small cabin tucked away near the ship's rear. The cabin was quiet, with a single bunk and a small window that looked out on the stars. He closed the door gently behind them. Lyra sat on the edge of the bunk, her hands folded in her lap. Jonas placed 2 steaming cups of herbal tea on a low table beside her. The sweet scent of mint filled the air. He sat on a crate across from her and offered her a cup. Lyra accepted it with both hands, as though it were a precious gift. She blew on the surface and took a careful sip. The warmth spread through her chest. Jonas watched her quietly. He noticed the faint glow in her eyes, the same soft light he had seen in the maintenance room. He spoke in a calm voice. "You can share your memory if you wish. I will listen." Lyra set the cup down and closed her eyes. Her pale blue skin brightened as the glow in her eyes grew stronger. Jonas felt a gentle pull in his mind, as if a door had opened. Suddenly, he saw a desert world under twin suns. A young Lyra stood alone on red sands. She reached out to catch wind-blown scraps of metal. The air was hot and dry. In the distance, jagged rock spires rose like frozen flames. Jonas felt her fear and loneliness. He saw her small figure turning in circles, searching for someone, anyone, to help her. A harsh wind blew, and Lyra's tears mixed with the dust. Then he saw another scene. Lyra stood in a grand hall before stern figures dressed in bronze robes. They whispered among themselves. One elder spoke her name and demanded she leave. Lyra bowed her head and stepped back, her shoulders shaking. Jonas realized these were her people, and they had banished her. His heart ached for her. He wanted to reach out and hug her, but he stayed where he was. The visions faded, and Lyra opened her eyes. Her glow dimmed, leaving her pale blue once more. A single tear rolled down her cheek. She covered her face with her hands. Jonas rose slowly and knelt beside her. He placed a gentle hand on her arm. "You are not alone now," he said softly. "I am here." Lyra looked up through her fingers. Her eyes were wet but filled with trust. She let her hands fall away and met his gaze. "Thank you," she whispered. Jonas offered her the tea again. She took a sip and nodded. "I have carried that memory for many cycles," she said. "It made me strong, but it also made me afraid to trust." He smiled kindly. "Memory can be a gift and a burden, but sharing it can heal." Lyra drew in a slow breath. She placed her hand over his. "I feel less alone," she said. Jonas squeezed her hand. "You have a friend in me," he replied. Outside, the ship's engines thrummed steadily. Inside the cabin, two souls, one human, one alien, sat together. Through shared memory and simple kindness, they built a bond that would guide them forward. Morning light filtered through the small window as Jonas and Lyra sat at the table in her cabin. A simple breakfast of fruit and bread lay before them. Lyra picked at the bread, still uneasy, but Jonas smiled kindly and offered her a piece of sweet melon. They spoke in soft voices. Jonas asked about Lyra's homeworld. Lyra described red deserts and black stone spires that rose like tall trees carved from rock. She told him about the cold nights and the bright twin moons. Jonas listened closely, nodding. After breakfast, Jonas led Lyra to the ship's navigation deck. The walls were lined with glowing control panels. He pointed to a star map and said, "This is where we are now." Lyra's eyes lit up as she traced her finger along the stars. She spoke a word in her language and pointed to a cluster of distant suns. Jonas copied the word, but his tongue stumbled. Lyra laughed, a clear, musical sound that warmed the room. Next, Jonas brought Lyra to the engineering bay. A small sensor unit had failed overnight, and the engines ran louder than usual. Jonas held the faulty part in his hand. "Can you help me fix this?" he asked. Lyra studied the unit's wiring. Her eyes shone with focus. She reached out and reattached a thin copper wire. Then she tightened a tiny bolt with practiced hands. The sensor flickered back to life. Green lights blinked in sequence. The engine's roar softened to its usual hum. Jonas clapped his hands once and said, "You did it." Lyra smiled shyly, her cheeks warming. She had never repaired human hardware before, but she learned quickly. They worked side by side for the rest of the morning. Jonas taught Lyra how to read human schematics. Lyra showed Jonas a drawing she carried in her pouch, a sketch of her childhood home. The lines were rough but full of detail: low stone walls, spired towers, and swirling wind patterns in the sand. Jonas admired her art. "This is beautiful," he said. Lyra's smile grew wider, and her glow seemed brighter. As the hours passed, Lyra grew more relaxed. She walked freely through the ship, greeting crew members by name. Jonas watched her and felt proud. He realized that trust was like a fragile plant. It needed time, gentle care, and honest words to grow. Before the day ended, Jonas and Lyra returned to her cabin. Lyra retrieved a small crystal from her pouch. It held a memory of her people's old songs. She placed it in Jonas's hand. He held the crystal lightly and felt a faint vibration, like a heartbeat. He smiled and said, "Thank you for sharing this with me." Lyra nodded. "You have earned my trust," she said in her quiet voice. Jonas stood and offered his arm. Lyra took it without hesitation. Together, they walked down the corridor toward the mess hall, their steps in time with the steady hum of the ship. In that moment, two very different beings walked side by side, bound by new friendship and the promise of many discoveries yet to come. Early the next day, Jonas stood on the navigation deck. The ship's engines glowed under his feet as he set a course for Kira, Lyra's desert home. Lyra joined him at the star map, her pale blue skin soft in the display light. "I have not been home in many cycles," she said quietly. Her eyes traced the route through asteroid fields and solar flares. "Some fear I will bring trouble." Jonas placed a hand on her shoulder. "I will not let harm come to you," he said. His voice was firm. Lyra nodded, and a small smile played on her lips. Over the long voyage, Lyra and Jonas prepared for their arrival. Jonas studied customs files to learn Kira's traditions. He practiced formal greetings and learned key words in her language. Lyra watched him patiently, correcting his tones. When the freighter dropped out of hyperspace above Kira, Jonas and Lyra stood side by side on the bridge. Below them stretched endless red sands, broken by dark rock spires. Twin suns hovered on the horizon, casting long shadows. A Kiran patrol ship approached and docked. Its crew wore bronzed armor and carried long spears. Lyra's heart beat fast. She gave Jonas a reassuring nod. He stepped forward as the hatch opened. Leading a small guard, a stern figure in a bronze robe entered first. Lyra bowed her head, then straightened. Jonas followed and bowed in the human way, hands at his sides, eyes level. The Kiran elder studied him with sharp, dark eyes. "Human," the elder said in Lyra's tongue. "You claim to defend our kin. Why should we trust you?" Jonas met the elder's gaze. He spoke slowly, clearly. "I have learned your customs. I have seen Lyra's pain and her strength. I speak truth when I say I stand with her people." The guards shifted, their spears tapping the floor. Lyra stepped forward. "This is Jonas Keller," she said. "He gave me kindness when I feared praise. He healed a broken sensor. He shared my memories. He earned his place beside me." The elder's eyes softened. He turned to Jonas. "You honor our fears and our hopes," he said. Then he nodded. "Welcome, Jonas Keller. You may walk among us." Relief washed over Lyra's face. She clasped Jonas's hand. Together, they walked down a metal corridor lined with glass walls. Beyond the glass, Kiran citizens paused in their tasks to watch the human and the alien girl return home. On the sands below, children raced in the twin sun dawn. Traders arranged woven goods in colorful stalls. The air hummed with life and the promise of new beginnings. Jonas and Lyra emerged into the bright morning. The elder led them beside a shallow fountain carved from white stone. Lyra knelt and dipped her hand into the cool water. She touched her forehead, then offered a drop to Jonas. He accepted with respect. As they stood, Lyra's people gathered around. They bowed their heads in greeting. Jonas bowed in return. Lyra glowed softly, no longer afraid of her own praise. In that moment, on the red sands of Kira, a human and an alien girl walked side by side. Their bond, born of simple kindness and brave trust, had brought two worlds closer than ever before. The next morning, Jonas and Lyra walked through the sunlit courtyards of Kira's capital. Bronze statues of ancient leaders stood among low stone walls. Citizens paused to greet Lyra with bows. At her side, Jonas felt both pride and nervousness. They reached the council hall, a tall building carved from red sandstone. Two guards in polished bronze armor opened the doors and led them inside. The hall's floor was smooth marble, and high columns glowed in the bright light. At the far end, the council sat on a raised dais. Their robes gleamed like molten gold. The chief elder rose and spoke. "Jonas Keller, Human, you have come far to stand among us. Explain why we should trust your people." His voice echoed in the hall. Jonas stepped forward, bowing respectfully. He spoke in Lyra's tongue, the words careful but clear. "On my world, we value honesty and cooperation. I have seen Lyra's strength and learned from her people. I offer knowledge that can help Kira and humanity both." He reached into a satchel at his side and presented a small device, a water purifier tuned to Kira's mineral-rich wells. This device can turn salty water into fresh. It can feed children and heal drought. He placed it on the marble floor. A guard activated the purifier. At first, only a thin trickle of clear water dripped into a bowl. Then the flow grew steady. Council members leaned forward, whispering among themselves. Lyra smiled faintly. An elder rose and picked up the bowl. She smelled the water and took a small sip. Her stern face softened. She turned to the rest of the council. "This gift will save lives." Another elder spoke. "Humans share technology only when they wish to earn trust. Jonas Keller has risked much to learn our ways and to protect Lyra." Jonas bowed his head. Lyra stepped forward. "My people have long lived in fear of strangers," she said. "Jonas showed me kindness when I could not trust praise. He fixed our broken sensor. He healed old wounds in my heart. I stand with him." She took Jonas's hand and held it out to the council. The hall fell silent. Then one by one, the elders rose and placed their hands on Lyra's, and Jonas's joined hands. The chief elder spoke once more. "We, the Council of Kira, accept this alliance with humanity. May our worlds grow together in peace and prosperity." A cheer rose through the hall. Citizens crowded forward to congratulate Jonas and Lyra. Children tugged at Lyra's robes, calling her princess in shy whispers. Jonas smiled as he watched Lyra laugh and greet them. Outside the hall, traders and engineers gathered around Jonas's purifier. Lyra explained each part in her tongue, while Jonas answered questions in simple English. Together, they taught curious craftsmen how to build more units. By sunset, Kira's people had repaired an old water tower and installed the purifier. Fresh water gushed over stone steps into new channels. Citizens drank and cried with joy. Jonas and Lyra stood hand in hand, watching the water flow. On the red sands under twin suns, two worlds had joined by respect and trust. From one human's kindness and one alien girl's courage, a true alliance had taken root, and its promise would shape the future of both peoples. Early dawn bathed the Kira spaceport in pale light. Twin suns hovered low, sending long shadows over the landing pads. Jonas stood beside Lyra at the edge of a sleek human transport ship. Below them, Kiran delegates gathered, their bronze robes stirring in the warm breeze. Lyra adjusted her overalls, her pale blue skin glowing softly in the morning sun. She carried a small satchel filled with gifts for the human worlds, crystals that held Kiran music, and jars of rare desert spices. Jonas checked his own pack for human maps and data drives filled with Kiran's star charts. A low hum grew louder as the transport's engines powered up. Crew members in simple uniforms reviewed final checks. Jonas placed a reassuring hand on Lyra's arm. "Ready?" he asked. Lyra took a steady breath. "I am," she said, voice calm but excited. "I have never seen your home world." Jonas smiled. "Then let us go." Together, they climbed the ramp and entered the ship. The interior was bright and clean, with smooth white walls and wide windows. Delegates followed, bowing respectfully to Lyra and Jonas. The chief elder stepped forward and placed a hand on Lyra's shoulder. "Go with honor," he said in Kiran. "Show the humans our kindness." Lyra bowed her head. "I will," she promised. Jonas guided her to a seat by the window. They watched as Kiran's citizens lined the platform, waving and shouting farewells. A small child held up a drawing of Jonas and Lyra under twin suns. Lyra blew the child a gentle kiss, and Jonas waved back. The engines roared, and the ship lifted smoothly. Karen spires fell away beneath them. Lyra pressed her palm to the glass, watching her home world shrink. Jonas sat beside her, holding her free hand. "Will you miss this place?" he asked quietly. Lyra turned to him, her large eyes shining. "Yes," she said, "but I also dream of your worlds." Jonas pointed to a holographic display on the wall. It showed stars and planets along their route. "First top, Andorra Station," he explained. "Then we go to Earth." Lyra's eyes widened. "Earth," she whispered. "I only know stories." Jonas nodded. "You will see oceans and forests. You will meet humans who will welcome you." Lyra studied his face. "I trust you," she said softly. Jonas squeezed her hand. "And I trust you." For the rest of the flight, they prepared together. Jonas taught Lyra basic customs of Earth's major cultures. Lyra showed him more of her people's songs, playing short melodies through a small crystal device. Her music filled the cabin with gentle notes. Crew members paused to listen. As the ship sailed through space, Lyra smiled more than she had since they met. Jonas watched her bright eyes and realized how far they had come. Two strangers now bound by friendship and purpose. When Andorra Station came into view, Lyra leaned forward in her seat. The station's lights glimmered like a city in the void. Jonas tapped her shoulder. "Are you ready for the next step?" Lyra nodded, excitement and courage shining in her gaze. "Yes," she said, "let us cross these new horizons together." The human transport glided toward Earth's blue-green curve. White clouds swirled over oceans, and continents spread like painted patches. Lyra pressed her hand against the window, awed by the sight. Jonas stood beside her, his heart warm with hope. When the ship docked at the orbital station, a delegation of humans in varied uniforms and clothing greeted them. Scientists, diplomats, and curious citizens waited. Banners read, "Welcome Kyra Alliance." Lyra's breath caught at the sight of so many friendly faces. Jonas led Lyra down the ramp. She hesitated for a moment, then stepped onto the platform. Cameras flashed softly, but the crowd's smiles were genuine. A human official approached, extending a hand. "Lyra of Kira," the official said, "on behalf of Earth, I welcome you. We honor our new alliance." Lyra bowed her head, then looked up with a shy smile. "Thank you," she replied in careful English. "I am honored to be here." She turned to Jonas. "You made this possible." Jonas smiled and shook the official's hand. "Lyra taught me more than I could teach her. Together, we bridge our worlds." The crowd applauded. Children waved small flags of Earth and Kira. Lyra's eyes sparkled as she waved back. She felt her heart lighten with joy. Human ambassadors led Jonas and Lyra to a garden terrace planted with green trees and colorful flowers. The air was sweet with blossoms. Birds flew between branches, chirping melodies unfamiliar to Lyra. She reached out and gently touched a bright red petal. Jonas watched her wonder. "These are Earth's gifts," he said. "Forests, rivers, and animals. I hope you like them." Lyra smiled and inhaled deeply. "They are beautiful," she said softly. "They feel like hope." A scientist joined them, carrying a small crystal similar to the one Lyra had given Jonas. "This is our gift to you," the scientist said. "It holds data about Earth's cultures and histories. We hope it will help Kara learn about us." Lyra accepted the crystal and held it close. "Thank you," she whispered. She looked at Jonas. "Our people will welcome these gifts." Jonas placed his hand on her shoulder. "This is only the beginning," he said. "Together, we will learn and grow." High above Earth, the twin suns of Kira shone in Lyra's memories. Below, Earth's sun warmed her new home. In that garden terrace, two strangers, human and alien, stood united. From a simple compliment to a grand alliance, their journey had brought hope to many worlds. As ships from Kira and Earth sailed through space side by side, a new dawn rose across the stars. Humanity and Kira would face challenges ahead, but with trust, kindness, and shared dreams, They would build a future brighter than any sun. And on Earth's garden terrace, Lyra and Jonas looked toward the horizon, ready to write the next chapter of their friendship, and of two worlds bound by a simple, unexpected reaction to 5 simple words.